Peace and blessings, family. We're back with the soul of music. And I am joined by three awesome, I call them music historians. We are joined by dear brother Jamil, brother Darius, and sister Ifamo Dupuy. How y'all doing this evening?
Fine.
Yeah.
Real good.
I'm psyched. So we're gonna talk about doo-wop. Last week we talked about funk, and I ain't gonna lie, Darius, you was on the type, but I was learning about some other funk that I didn't even know existed. All I knew was funk out my face, you know what I mean?
Yeah, y'all had the funkin' last week.
We had the funkin' last week. Yeah, right. He ain't tapped in today. He knows doo-wop too, boy.
See what I'm saying? I'm being a pestaboo because I like to get the stories behind the music, and I think sometimes we don't know how great the history is.
Yeah,
like, we need to know the history of all the stuff that we have done and continue to do. So, with that being said, when you think of doo-wop, be very honest. What comes to your mind with this doo-wop?
So, when I think about it, just based on some stuff that I read this week, race music. I used to work at a jazz radio station in Atlanta, and I remember doing some research on how, when we used to put music out, they wouldn't let us put our face on the album cover and all that stuff. And doo-wop is born you have this thing that was taking place in our communities, and when white kids wanted to really get access to it, it became the devil's music, and it became all this other kind of stuff. And so we called our music race music up until then. Then it got coined, the phrase rhythm and blues got coined out of doo-wop. So that's what I think about. I think about those origins of race music and how it came into play. And of course, the melodies and the harmonies are what drives it. So.
Right on. What about you, Ifamo Dupuy? Anything come to mind when you think of doo-wop?
Yeah, I always think about how we associate pop music with not black music, like any music other than black music, but really doo-wop to me was the first pop music. You know what I mean? It was like a lot of it was, church boys singing outside of church. Using a lot of those same harmonies and chord structures, voicing them like that. And then, so they weren't really doing a lot of racy material. There was some, don't get me wrong, we do our thing. But a lot of it was pretty it was music you could put on. Black people just enjoyed it, and it wasn't like adults only music. But I think we should look at ourselves differently in terms of being the originators of a lot of these genres that we may not participate in fully or may not benefit from the way that, as if we did.
Right on. Brother Jamil, you just joined us. We're talking about doo-wop music. When you think of doo-wop, what comes to your mind? Doo-wop.
The first thing that comes to mind is to just express to you how grateful I am to be on your program tonight and with Brother Darius and Sister Ife, because your knowledge of the music comes from different perspectives, and I really respect that. And I'm glad to be on with a radio man, Brother Darius, from either from WRFG or from WCLK, wherever you were.
WCLK
91.9 Atlanta. Yeah. Wherever you were, you were building the relationship between the music, its makers, its listeners, and its scholars. So all of that is a path that we've been following. What do I think of when I think of doo-wop music? I literally think of the soundtrack of my life. I'm going to claim seniority
Hey.
in this grouping here. So I can remember doo-wop in a lot of its different forms, whether it's a cappella, whether it's from the streets of Harlem, or the Orioles in Baltimore with Sonny Till, Pookie Hudson and the Spaniels from out of Washington, D.C., and Little Anthony and the Imperials, the irreplaceable Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers.
Yeah.
Like there's so much effervescence and so much of the power of an emerging community, both a young community and a Black community.
Yes.
Both striving to come out of the shadows of anonymity and to make a name for themselves by mastering the idiom of music. So I think of groups like the Young Hearts, which is the first all-girl doo-wop group to have a charting record in 1955. So all of these different things that are coming together make for a very rich thought pattern in my mind, and I'm glad to be here on your program tonight. And I promise everybody, just as a kindness to you all, before I bust out in song, I will mute my mic. Okay? But
leave that mic on, man. Leave that mic on.
But you have a beautiful voice. You have a beautiful voice. And when I was growing up with doo-wop, I remember when family gatherings, people would always start doo-wop. Because somebody always had that voice, somebody had that bass. You know what I mean? And they get together and then you start hearing this, or you'll see people slow dance, and it would be to all of that doo-wop music.
Yeah.
Or whatever that was back in 19.
You asked the question, Ro, about how there were derivative forms. And when music started moving away from doo-wop, there were still heavy doo-wop elements in what Ife correctly calls pop music. I know you all remember the chart topper Patty Drew, right? And y'all looking at me kind of blank, but Patty Drew had a record, Tell Him, right? And Patty Drew's record, you know, if you see my man's out laying, whatever, boom, and you hear the background, boom, 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 boom. And the background is singing that bass. That a cappella bass is a part of the gospel quartet sound that was brought, as Ife said, out of the church when church boys sang out of church. And they would stand on the street corner at night and make up melodies and harmonies about, thanks, Brother Darrell, I think it's good stuff too. But and I cannot answer why do fools fall in love. I'm trying my best not to do it. Okay. But these church boys sang out of church, man. This is a great talk. I can't wait to learn. I got my pen and pad. I'm ready to write down some stuff and learn. Come on, y'all.
So you know what's crazy? I just remember I grew up in Sacramento, so you know, on the West Coast, I don't feel like we got that deep dive in the rich cultural experience that people who grew up on the East Coast got. So like my first exposure to doo-wop was probably like Shana Na on TV. You know what I'm saying? Like just watered down, like some nonsense, right? And so I never really appreciated it until I got around people who were not from California or not from Sacramento, and they gave me the pure part of it. Like once I heard like really good, I was like, okay, I could see what I was exposed to was enough to make me really dislike it at my first introduction to it.
Oh wow!
You know,
I also think that thievery, to be very, I really thought about thieves, like just people who they know that wasn't that stuff. Like, y'all know y'all be harmonizing after y'all finish working, because y'all ain't really work nowhere, so you ain't really relieving your day by getting homies pouring out something for the homies, and then getting a song in because you got the
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had no idea that folks were just standing out on the corner, putting together quartets and trios and just killing it on the block.
Yeah.
And almost, you know, similar to how I heard that preachers began their ministries. They would just put a soapbox on the corner and then they would draw people in. And from what I understand, these doo-wop singers, that was the same way. They would just get out there and allow their talent to draw the crowd.
That's right.
Next thing you know, it's going down in the neighborhood.
I think too, on the West Coast, there were a lot of clubs throughout Oakland, especially like West Oakland, Esther's Orbit Room, and all those little clubs, and they had little doo-wop groups. My dad was in a doo-wop group called the Skillets.
The Skillets.
Him and his friends put together. Yeah, they were in a group called the Skillets, and there were a lot of like little church girl groups that would sing background and be going through the clubs too. So that was a whole thing. I think maybe more so in the Bay Area than in Sacramento. Mm-hmm. But that was really my introduction, is that I would see my dad and his friends get together for holidays and barbecues and stuff, and then they just start singing, just bust out a song or whatever. So yeah.
And it's all tied together.
What music before doo-wop that doo-wop sprang from? Because it feels like music is always spraying from another well somewhere.
I got to tell you, for my money, I'm going to go with male quartet gospel music.
Okay.
As the immediate antecedent of doo-wop. And if you listen, you hear shadows of what later would become doo-wop in the Dixie Hummingbirds and the Swan Silvertones, and certainly the Soul Stirrers featuring Sam Cooke, the model of the bright, vibrant lead tenor, surrounded by the 4-part harmony, right? With the bass being sung as opposed to strummed, right? And so you hear the bass, the bass is carrying the bass, boom, boom, boom. And the bottom is carried there. And then you got the harmony in the middle, and the lead singer soars over the top of it. You had some great examples of that. So it wasn't just, Ira Tucker in gospel, or it wasn't just Sam Cooke in gospel or R.H. Crane in gospel. They gave birth to their stylistic offspring, Clyde McFadder from the Drifters. Right. And then he had a grandson named, I'm talking about stylistically now, the grandson then became Lenny Williams from the Bay Area. Right. And so, Lenny Williams is plaintive tenor. That's straight from doo-wop. Girl, I love you. He's coming straight from doo-wop. It's that very plaintive, emotional, connecting sound. And you do know, in far as, let me just take a sidestep in the Bay Area, the one teacher who received the Most Patient Woman of the Year award in 1957. You know who that was, right?
No.
The most patient person in California was Lenny Williams' first grade teacher who taught him the alphabet, because he kept getting stuck on O, He would go all the way up through the alphabet, and then get the But
made me busy.
But she was patient.
I can't with Jamil. You know what? That was a good one, Jamil, because I was really thinking, like, did we miss somebody? Oh God. So hold on for a minute. So you said something earlier, Brother Darius, about race music, about them not being able to put their pictures on the cover. When I was doing my research for that, I seen a lot of covers. So do you mean this was the beginning of Black folks being able to pick their faces on stuff?
I think it was definitely around that time. But what they would do is they would have the white boys and the white girls do the covers of our music, and then they would put their pictures on front of the covers to make it easier, because we were breaking into their community. So all of a sudden you had this music that was in a segregated community that was now reaching over the train tracks, and it was now you got these white kids who want to come over to the ghetto and get the music, and so they would do whatever they could to get out of the house, but then they also needed to market the music so that they can make money off of it. And they thought that it was easier to sell to white audiences if they didn't see Black people on the covers of those records. Now, as it gained in popularity, then they would market them in our communities. But before that, they tried to sell it to their community by not having us on the cover.
Do you find that still the same as today when you look at like the top selling hip hop artists or white people, or even though everybody's on their own cover, do you think white people get like an extra push always in our music. Like Tina Marie was great, love Tina Marie, but I mean, there's so many black women who sound 10 times greater than Tina Marie, and I love her. I think she was a great person. You know, she's officially one of us, I guess. But I'm just saying, like, it's just always this white people always get this leg up, even in music.
So I wonder, is it because they pay for the music? It's a lot of people would say that our art form is financially supported more by white folks than it is by us. Some people will say we take our art forms for granted, and we kind of give it away. We innovate these rich art forms like Dop Wop, and then we give it away. And they pay.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, but don't we give it its validity? Like white people could buy this stuff, but if black folks don't put the dap on it, like we like to hype for everybody. We don't be like, man, that white boy, man, he was killing it. White like, oh, he was really good. Like, you know, we gotta put the dap on it to make it official. Like you ain't officially doing soul music, you know, and that's you like he hit that note. Like we give it something extra. It has to be validated. Yeah, white people can buy your stuff, but if we ain't co-signing it, maybe that I don't know what's what I'm looking for. It ain't really.
I'm gonna agree with that, bro. I'm gonna agree with that because historically, and we look at the era when doo-wop was at its most popular between 1950 and perhaps 1965 or so. The style of music that Ife describes as real pop music became a commercial battle between the two heaviest record sellers of the day. One black group and one white group. The black group was Little Anthony and the Imperials.
Okay.
Right? Who had hits like Tears on My Pillow and I'm on the outside looking in and I'm going out of my head. And, you know, all that shimmy, shimmy, Cocoa Pop. All of those things were rooted in doo-wop, but they moved into what Ife accurately calls pop. But then you had the white boys who came, or we call them the Jersey Boys. They got a Broadway play for them. That's Tony. Frankie Valli. I'm calling it Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons from Jersey City, and they also sold millions of records. But because of that edge that you talk about, Ro, they were able to have a leap into various different venues and situations as a touring act, as radio featured in terms of a record on the radio, spins on the airwaves, and they were able to actually outdo Little Anthony Imperials, whose some critics say their commercial output and their artistic output was far superior. Then you close out that era, 1963, Ruby and the Romantics, right? And they bring you the soft, smooth kind of doo-wop-ish, because it's not the heavy-duty harmonies and the interplays, but Ruby and the Romantics bring you Our Day Will Come, right? And, you know, the elegant, and you see the groups here featured on the screens. Look at them. They're in their tuxedos, and they're in there. They got them processed Marcel waves up in that head. You got to leave that lie in there long enough, get that process happening, right? Oh, yeah. But these are the young people who are trying to make their mark in the world. There's Pookie Hudson and the Spaniels out of Washington, D.C. You had Sonny Till and the Orioles from Baltimore. And these various different groups, the bird groups, the Ravens, the Flamingos, the Orioles, you know, so many great. There's Shep and the Limelights, Daddy's Home. And that was later made popular by Jermaine Jackson. This is great stuff, man. You are. Man, look at them processes. You don't find that. There's some slick heads right there. Some slick heads right there.
Bill, have you ever had a process?
First off, I'm gonna need you to stay out of business now, bro. We didn't say nothing about you gonna ask me about what I had a process. So let's go on the next question.
I like seeing those pictures. I do. When they were writing these songs, was there any particular theme? Like Daddy's Home, I remember because my dad was a truck driver. He did cross country, and we loved that song because that was one of my dad's favorite songs. Daddy's Home, you stay. You know, like you like, oh, that was our song. Like born 1971. Like, what I know about that? But my dad played that song.
Mhm.
That's the only reason why I know it.
Mhm.
Was there any particular theme to a doo-wop? Was it about love? Was it about
It was about love, man. It was about love. It was about heartbreak. Those were the primary ones. Love and heartbreak kind of drove it. And it was also it could have a voice, because it did have that gospel foundation to it, but it was primarily about love. It's primarily about love and heartbreak.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And desire, wanting somebody. So
Yeah.
Is there any groups today that have like you can hear doo-wop when you hear them singing? Any groups like Boys the Men? I love Boys the Men.
definitely.
But is there any other? Boys the Men are exceptional. I'm just going to be honest.
Yeah.
For me,
Well, Take Six, I think. I think Take Six was like that. Sounds of Blackness. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I can hear that.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. That's sort of a hybrid between doo-wop
but
and
the
current music.
OJs, they had that sound.
Who?
The OJs, that was
Oh my God.
That's not today, They had
Interestingly enough, Marley started off in doo-wop as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. So he goes doo-wop and then into what they call ska and then into reggae. And so because they're listening to American radio.
Yeah.
And Darius, I really, I would love to ask you questions, but I would just buy you cup after cup of coffee so you could just talk to me, brother, and teach me the music. Sister, I'm telling you, because anytime your dad is in a group called the Skillets, sister, that's credentials right there. That's born in the war.
Yeah,
credentials.
it's like, I think music was a religion in my house, against my mother's best wishes because she's a minister, but Sunday morning, that was all me and my dad and a bunch of vinyl. That's it.
Yeah. I remember going to a little church in Berkeley, California on San Pablo Avenue. It was called Lily of the Valley Baptist Church. The church is still there.
Wow.
And the Reverend Michael Robinson is the fine pastor there. The Reverend Michael Robinson had a group called the Spiritual Keys. And the group, they sing quartet music, and you would not expect it as you drive in that nondescript area of San Pablo Avenue before it gets kind of high tone going into Berkeley, and after it's come through the rough part down by the Hotel California. Excuse me, but by the California Hotel. But when you get up there,
the Blaze,
Reverend Robinson, and they would sing like angels in that church. And so, if you're viewing this and you know of the Lily of the Valley Baptist Church in Berkeley, California, please extend all of our warm greetings. They sang like your family sang on Sunday morning, sister. The beautiful music.
And the Winans, they used a lot of those same harmonies, and they were heavily influenced. And so I think a lot of that music ended up being gospel music in the Bay Area because church culture was real heavy. You think about the migration from the South to the West.
Yes.
Was probably, I want to say it was more churched up, like from the South to the East. Had a little more secular flavor, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, now see, you hitting on something there, sister, because somebody once said to me that Oakland is nothing but Shreveport. They say Oakland is Shreveport. That's all it is. It's Louisiana West. And that when the people came to the area, they brought with them their cultural traditions from the deep South. And it was that way on the East Coast too. Some of the doo-wop groups and the stylists of music. And Darius, I wanted to ask you this as a radio person, and my dear sister, please jump in with him and help him, with these questions, because I'm a student and I got my pen and pad and I want to learn. When the groups when people moved from the South to the East Coast, right? From South Carolina to New York, from North Carolina to DC, from Virginia to Philadelphia, etc. When they went that way, or even from Alabama to Detroit, like people like Wilson Pickett and all the Temptations coming out of Alabama, the Chicago people came from Mississippi. Everybody's leaving the South and going to these metropolises where the music takes place. And I just want to ask the two of you, is there a certain city whose doo-wop sound captures your imagination more than another in terms of what you listen to when you go back and listen to the music?
Personally, I always think of, when it comes to doo-wop, I always think of like Philly and New York. I know that it had to be happening in Detroit, and Chicago. It had to be there, but for whatever reason, I always just think about New York. And
Mm-hmm.
New York. What about you, sis? What do you think about?
Probably Philly and New York too, because I think like there's pockets where it's like a to this day thing, right? So to this day, like Philly has really carried the torch in terms of bringing that talent out into the world. Like there was a whole time where if you didn't go to Philly and it was like going to LA, like musicians in California say, you got to do your time in LA. That's how Philly was. Like you got to go to Philly.
Yeah.
Because it's all coming out of there. And so.
And as I hear you cite those groups, it's interesting enough, Ro. Thank you for letting me ask these questions, because I'm just stunned. But like in North Philly, we had a group that became famous. They broke out, but they were a classic doo-wop group. Their lead singer had a very idiosyncratic, strange kind of voice. But the Intruders, Big Sonny, Little Sonny, Phil, and Bird, from 16th and Susquehanna in North Philly. So when you hear them, you know, Little Sonny's voice, I remember when I used to see you jump and roll up and down, baby. You know, and so you had that kind of but his voice is so strange, and he's carrying the melody, but that background is back there, and the Intruders are back there giving him that call and response, and that doo-wop band. And so Little Sonny's riffing. You know what I mean? You know, but I was young and didn't understand.
What they call that vocal fry?
Who?
When you sing out of that part of your throat, they call it a vocal fry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's where Joe LaGun had it. Johnny Taylor could move in and out of it, even though he really didn't do a lot of doo-wop. But Johnny Taylor could move in and out of that vocal fry like that. Then he'd come back and get smooth. You know? Yeah.
How would he do that, Jamil? How would he do that?
Well, I mean, he controlled it. I certainly don't know. I'm not a vocalist, but I can tell you that as you listen to it, some people lived in it. Bobby Blue Bland lived in it as a blues singer.
Yeah.
He lived in the vocal fry, you know what I mean? And even gargled on the microphone. Y'all know the sound that Bobby Blue Bland makes that nobody else
can
Y'all know what it is. But Johnny Taylor could move in and out of it. Gerald Alston played with it every now and then, but he was a much smoother, buttery type of vocalist for the Manhattans, you know. But these cats was singing, man. They were saying, and the doo-wop movement gave rise to the falsetto era.
Yes.
Some of Marvin's earlier stuff was doo-wop, man, and he could hold it down because he could go up there. Little Anthony, that's what he was known for, right?
Yeah. And he was a dramatic showman as well, you know. And you see the Imperials come out and stand in a pattern, and then little Anthony would saunter onto the stage from out of the wings. And just before the note he was to sing, he got right in front of the group, and then he began, you know, you don't remember me, but I remember you. Not so long ago, you broke my heart in two. Tears on my pillow. You know, so he's giving you drama. It's like an opera, you know. It's great.
They were showmen, like the level of showmanship with the tailoring, the suits, the top hats and tuxedos, the makeup, the funk, all this. They had it like it was a full production.
Wouldn't you say those were the days of artist development, actual artist development?
Oh yeah, because they had to grind. They had to grind. Like
you had to grind. You had to put, you know,
and that dancing and all of that was like that's a lot of work. I mean, that's Beyonce level work. People are really not trying to be that kind of artist because of the amount of time that it takes and the number of people that you have telling you what to do. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you gonna wear this because this is what everybody wearing. You're about to come out here with no locks. Everybody's going to the salon.
Right on. That was a package, though. Like, when I think about those times, I think about Black folks being, and we talked about this last week a little bit with funk people like kind of busted out. It's like, I'm doing me. Well, I want to be creative, but it almost felt like there was a lot of uniformity there, and in a place of being safe. And so the moves I love to see the Temptations do their little dance. I do. I just do. I love to see all people recreate their stuff. Like we have to move like that, But was some of that about like the uniformity of being together, but also the sharpness, or how much of that was in line with I want to say safety. I don't know if that's the right word, because I think about when people started to kind of expose themselves, then the folks like, you take off that shirt one more time, we locking you up. But that was like right before that. It was like the dude took off his shirt.
Right.
But how much of that uniformity was safety and a presentation to I get the showmanship, but was there some safety in there?
Well, if I might, again, as a contemporary of that actual time frame, that actual era, I was a very young child, but I'm clear on the memory that there was a sense of collectivity in Black America that has been missing since the advent of integration. One of the worst and most poisonous byproducts of integration has been extreme individualism. In those days, we understood that we were representing for a community and that we were all striving to get respect and dignity together. So you see in this group, in this period of time, these groups are not jeffing and clowning like they used to have to do to get on stage in the earlier decades of the 20th century. There's no wild buck-eyed, bucking eyes and rolling eyes and running around clowning like minstrels. We're not doing that. What we're doing now is beginning to come out to the stage dressed as elegantly as we can, showing that we are civilized, we have a dignity as a people. You look at groups in other genres like the modern jazz quartet, for example. When they would come on stage, they were impeccably dressed in business suits with beautiful, everything just polished and beautiful. The epitome of grooming, and they were not smiling. Of course, they weren't grim and ugly, but they were not smiling and jeffing. They made the audience accept them for their mastery of the musical idiom. These young brothers were doing something similar, but their youth and exuberance and urban experience put its mark on their performing product. So you see them do certain things, and they gave it that church thing. Since you were right on it, they were church boys singing church outside of church. And so they're going, they're looking at the sky and, singing, these great songs of love and desire, as Brother Darius said. Yeah, that's what it was about. And there was a safety in it, but there was the safety of dignity and an emerging people determined to show that we were not animals and buffoons and clowns like we have been represented by the American culture as a whole.
That's the excellence.
Do you also think that it had to do with the fact that when you got on the radio or when you got on television, if you were that fortunate, you were live? Any mistake that you made, any move that you messed up, any note that you butchered, that was there for everybody to see. As a community, we're unforgiving. We are unforgiving for you messing up in front of us. You cannot do bad notes and do bad dance moves with Black folk, right? We seen that a couple of weeks ago. The brother that got knocked out, he's going to get drugged now.
Nate.
You can't make no mistakes around us, man. And so I think that preparation had everything to do with you only got one shot. A lot of times you are only going to get one shot. You might only get on the radio one time in your career. You might only get on television one time in your career. So you were perfect because there were no do-overs.
That's right.
Everybody was looking. And so I think the safety definitely is everything, and the dignity and what we were trying to prove to the world in terms of who we are as a people. But I think that preparedness also is you only get one shot. You got to put it all, you got to do it all. You got to put it all on the line this time because you won't get another chance if you mess this up.
Yeah.
What groups in the 70s, it seemed like there was a big emergence of doo-wop again. I know we call it R&B, but I do think about a lot of those groups who sang doo-wop style in the 70s. That are some of the classic songs when you put on those slow jams. A lot of that stuff sounded like doo-wop to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that?
Well, did you all have any favorite lead singers from either the doo-wop era or coming forward? Like, were you Eddie Kendricks people or Ron Banks people? And there was a difference. Like, what do you think?
I would say I was more Eddie Kendricks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I like the brothers with the raspy voice and the aggressive.
Uh-huh.
So I really loved how Marley's voice evolved.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a fan of reggae, which is born out of that. So I tend to gravitate towards the more aggressive vocals.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What about you, sis? Did you have any favorites?
That's a good question. I don't know if I had a favorite. I do like the raspy voice. That's a thing for me. That's the only reason why I know what vocal fry is.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, what is that? I need that. I need that, because it gives you that. Doo-wop is not really my era. Like, I've caught on to some songs and I used to listen to my dad and then play, but like moving into the 70s, that's really more of my music. And then going back and looking at doo-wop, I definitely see the influence. But I really love gospel music. And so, like, to study the chords and harmonies and stuff in gospel music is kind of what made me really latch on to doo-wop, because I liked choirs. I love choirs, and I like the Jubilaires. To me, were music innovators, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I consider them almost a doo-wop group, or they could be a rap group, or they could be a gospel group,
Right.
or they, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they did so much different stuff that it was like that's kind of my thing. But I was thinking that I don't know why Maddie Moss Clark jumped in my head, because it seems like everything that is embodied in doo-wop was just what she pushed on the Clark sisters. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The excellence in terms of you better have it together. We got one shot at this. You know what I mean? That, and then also building in those harmonies, making the most out of every voice. So the thing that stands out to me is like how it's a group of soloists. You know what I'm saying? That's what sets it apart from other things, is like, even though there's always a lead singer, and whatever your taste in lead singers is, you know what I mean? But they're a group of soloists. So everyone is singing at the pinnacle of their voice. Like, everybody gets to be in their sweet spot and sing out. And that's how you get this sound that just wraps around you, you know what I'm saying, and kind of like takes you there. And so that to me is the part that translated from gospel. I know this ain't answering the question, but
wow. No, that's great. I'm having a little problem with my audio. Can you all hear me all right? Sometimes I'm hearing some static from you, but I just want to thank you all for those questions, and thank you again, Ro. This is a great program. I want to encourage everybody who's watching and listening to like the program and share the program. Like it and share it so that your circles can hear this kind of great discussion too on a Sunday evening all across the USA and around the world. Quick question. When you come to these groups and I hear you talk about the Clarks. I'm a Twinkie person, by the way. Okay, but I gotta say that in the Dorinda, but in the actual development of gospel music, How do you see the two forms fitting together? And I guess I'm asking all three of you, like how do you hear that happening?
For me, it's the whole idea of one voice,
Mm-hmm.
and the whole one melody, that frequency. We talked about the frequency last week as well, where we try to reach this frequency that taps into the divine, and I think that's where they both come together. They were able to tap into that frequency, into that vibration that is close to the divine. And that's what it was all about achieving. And love is always at the foundation of it. And so as long as you're putting that kind of energy and that kind of vibration out there, it's going to be received by all kind of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, to piggyback on what you're saying, the vibration, sound vibration, the mastery of that is something that is a part of our ancestral lineage. As African people, we chant, we sing, that's how we pray, that's how we invoke. We don't leave anything on the table in an exchange. You know what I'm saying? Like we're very expressive people just naturally, and the intonation in our voice tells a lot about, we could say the same thing 4 different ways and everybody catches the meaning, right?
Right.
And so that's a mastery of sound vibration that we have. I think it's just a natural part of who we are. And I feel like we took that from the worship space, using love as the vehicle. We took that from the worship space into the party space because that was our life. Like we never could separate ourselves from that feeling of we have to be constantly uplifting ourselves. And I think the most powerful thing that on earth is voices in harmony. Like that is the most powerful thing on earth. You can move mountains with voices in harmony. And it's just always amazing to me anytime I look at any genre of music, especially where there's groups that are singing together in harmony, how magical the experience is and how timeless the music is. You can put on I Only Have Eyes for You right now, and everybody be like, we get off the car, I don't know, maybe I should just, ain't gonna be stagnant because we're in a pandemic.
Yeah, that's true. I bear
Brother Muhammad,
no,
I got a question for you. I got a question for you. So I was watching this group this week that called the Jubilaires, right? I'm a hip hop dude, man. I love hip hop, man. And I was watching this clip on YouTube, and these brothers is doing doo wop, and then all of a sudden, this brother just steps right in the middle, just starts busting like it's hip hop, man. It wasn't
like dropping bars.
Oh my gosh, man! He went in like he just kept it going, man. Was that common, or were they like innovators in that space? Or was that a common thing?
I think that along with the Golden Gate Singers out of San Francisco, the Jubilaires, the Dixie Hummingbirds, there was a place for the spoken word in quartet gospel that gave that spoken word great power. Usually it was at the bridge, like it is in doo-wop. You know what I mean? Because in doo-wop, they lay down the melody, then they come to the bridge, and the bass singer comes up and says, "Darling, you know I love you. I'll be with you forever, my darling." And so that happens in doo-wop, right? But it was similar and there you see the Jubilee. Now, what you're looking at, and then he talks about, again, that the ship we built, and he's breaking down.
There you go.
Here he is. There's my man right there. There's the rapper. Okay. Okay. I heard, genealogically speaking, I don't know if it's truth to the rumor, but that's Busta Rhymes' granddaddy. I'm just trying to say, I don't know for sure, but I heard that. Okay. But see, so that was a part of what was happening, and then you go into the certain the spoken word space with Amiri Baraka and the Last Poets, and and all this other stuff, Lightning Rod, Hustlers Convention, all the other stuff that they were doing. Blessed are those who struggle, oppression is worse than the grave. All of that they're doing, it's interrelated. You know, Sister Ifa Modupe said, she said, this is the kind of interlocking relationship. You can't separate any of our genres ultimately from each other. And you can't separate one aspect of our life from the other. We worship and we party.
Yeah.
Right? We celebrate and we mourn. Right? We work and we relax. We do all of it, and all of it is natural. And the balanced human experience contains and expresses all of that. So the doo-wop era that we look at coming up in these major cities, for example, in Chicago, you had a group developing as a doo-wop group, right? And then they come out and become the world famous Impressions. But they're developing as a doo-wop group with Curtis Mayfield and Jerry Butler.
Okay.
Right? He don't love you like I love you. Right? So they're coming out with this whole doo-wop basis type of thing, you know, and then they grow into whatever they're going to express musically. And the beauty is that these are young people. Don't stop young people. Don't oppress their creativity. Yep. When Curtis Mayfield wrote and performed the soundtrack to Superfly, he was 29 years old.
Wow.
Yes. And when Isaac Hayes did Shaft, he's 30 years old. These are young men mastering, young women mastering their arts at an early age because they respected what went before them, and they were determined to add to the expression something that respected what came before. Listen to the emotions in the soundtrack of the movie Watt Stacks. And the emotions go into a humble church in South Central LA, and they sing, "Peace, be still." Ooh, honey, that ain't nothing but some gospel singing right there. And that 3-part family harmony, they kill it. And that's what happened. You can move mountains. My sister said tonight, you can move mountains with voices singing in harmony. I'm a witness to it.
Yeah.
So do you remember the tutelage that must have taken place? Because I don't know if we reach young people on the ground where they are, as well as people reached us when we were young and underground. There just seems to be a disconnect, and I feel like if you're gonna pass on such a rich tradition like doo-wop, there'd have to be some kind of mentorship or some kind of tutelage or some kind of rite of passage or something that just kind of moves that on. And I don't know if we still have that.
How did we do it before?
That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm saying.
Not now. I'm talking about, and I'm agreeing with you, but I'm trying to think about how did we do it before we called it all the things we know now because we have education. How did young brothers pass on or sisters pass on? How did the Clark sisters, mama, and how did they, you know, if you was listening to the blues, I watched B.B. King, they call him Raleigh. How did he get his stuff? He didn't necessarily go to college for it, but damn it, he got a PhD in a DD with the blues, you know, in the Spaniels, Mississippi. Down in the muddy deep South, you know what I mean? In the deep South, they call it the deep South. How do we? Because I think part of it is that you have to feel it. I think we're all saying it, but there has to be a feeling. There's something that it's like when you hear somebody hum. There's something in the hum that connects you to it and make you stop. Like it's not something you can. Like white people have to study because we're art and they want to be artists. Do you understand what I'm saying? But there is something about us when I go to the blues concert and I see all the white people at the blues concert and they are enjoying the blues because they ain't live none. Black folks are like,
and there's a different drink. You know what? And it's true, though. But there's a different blues that whites enjoy than the blues that blacks enjoy. Derek, you're a radio person. You know this. Yeah, certainly in the deep South, Atlanta, not so much, but certainly when you get over into the mid-South, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, Texas, East Texas in particular, right? South and southwestern Tennessee, you're listening to a music that is, they call it Southern Soul. That's the marketing term for it. But it is a music that is rooted in the blues of the Deep South, but Black people are not trying to carry that sound with us. Black people are trying to leave the washboards and the jug handles and all. We don't want that. We want an electric guitar and a horn section. We are trying to get the sound of the blues that came from Chicago and Detroit. And so we're not, so it's, you can still call it the blues, right?
I agree.
You can still call it the blues, but there's a difference between Robert Johnson and Johnny Taylor. There's a difference between Little Milton and what came way before Little Milton. It's an electrified urban sound for the sons and daughters of the South who now live in the urban, industrialized, but segregated and racist as hell North.
Right. Right.
No, brother, you're right. I'm just saying when you go to because we're gonna bring up the Bay Area. When I go to the Blues Festival in San Francisco, Steinberg, and you hear one like they are blues connoisseurs. You understand?
They're connoisseurs,
but they don't want to live it. They don't want to really talk about losing their job.
They're connoisseurs of Marsha Ball and connoisseurs of Bonnie Raitt and connoisseurs of Robbie Cray. And I got nothing against these artists. They're great performers. But those are the performers that Robert Cray is not popular on the south side of Chicago on 103rd in Michigan. That's Artie Blues Boy White. That's his territory. That's BB. That's Mr. Albert King. That's Little Milton. That's Denise LaSalle. That's the artists who perform and are so there because their experience is more authentically reflective of the audience for whom they perform. So you're exactly right. They are blues connoisseurs. I don't take anything away from them. Surely, they have there's a market for that. But in reality, the blues that we listen to is a different kind of blues. It really is a different kind of blues. And so, like, Marvin Cease and my main man Mel Waiters, at the Hole in the Wall, that's Black folk stuff. They're not tuning into that. I got my money and I got my whiskey, and tonight I'm gonna get real tipsy. That's our stuff.
They don't even know what that means.
You also think there's a sense of entitlement by them because they own the masters. Like I'm gonna sip tea on that. I'm gonna sip tea on that. They have a sense of entitlement because they actually own the things that we innovated and that we created. So when you come across them and they feel some type of way, it's because their daddy has the publishing and has the whole catalog of people, and they have nothing. You know what I mean? And I think that's where some of that confidence and that entitlement comes from because they are music. I think
studying things and living it is two different things. That's all I'm saying. I think when they daddy got the publishing rights, it's because the person who was taking it from was hungry, and they were trying to survive. You understand what I'm saying? I think there's a big difference. I only said it because I see that a lot. Sometimes I see white girls hold notes and then the Black girls, but I'm like, but she studied. You didn't even tap into that divine part of yourself that you would have sang all over if you was willing to go that deep within yourself. That's all I'm saying. Because it's there. We know all this music come out of our soul and what we've been through. Who else gonna come up with Lucille, with a guitar, I mean, who else gonna come and talk about meet the devil at the crossroads? Come on.
It's a price. There's a price to that. There's a price to going down in yourself in the presence of people who don't have the same context as you. You know what I mean? So integration, like Brother Jamil said, was not our friend in a lot of ways. Like it put us in a situation where then when you go down and capture your ancestors' vibration from inside of you and you bring that out as a singer, everybody's scared for your life. You understand what I mean? When I first started singing, my dad said, I wish you would choose something else to do. And then later on in life, he told me why. He said because he was a fan of Etta James. And that's all he could see was that pulling that out of yourself in that way that's real, like authentic. You can't, the world is not going to support that. You understand what I mean? So if you don't have your shit together, it's gonna go to the left.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? And so we could look at all these people's genius, artistry, and the masterpieces that they have created, and then look at their lives. You know what I'm saying? Look at their lives, look at their health, look at the ways in which that life was not supported. We can gush over what their music now, but they pay a price. You pay a price for that in this life, in this place. You know what I'm saying? You pay a price for that.
That's beautifully said, sister. They're like bright candles that burn so all of us can walk in their light, but they melt away more wax than any other illuminating device because their light is so bright. When you look at the light, the creatives, the life that they live, imagine being a drummer who could sing like Buddy Miles could sing.
Wow.
Big old Buddy Miles looked like a big bear, right? But he sang like an angel, And see, Buddy Miles is a creative, but he couldn't keep it up. Jimi Hendrix, the light was burning too bright. It was burning too bright. Some of them died young and others fried their brains on drugs for decades. And now as they walk around when they should be in the golden years of their lives receiving honor and accolades, we're trying to figure out what the drugs did to this man or that woman.
Yeah, because there's always, the flavors are always present. You understand what I'm saying? When we talk about colonizers, they're not just colonizing land. They are colonizing people. And so what a colonizer mindset is something that sees a richness and wants to own it. So one of the ways you can do that is creating an addiction. One of the ways you can, is that like everybody's jealous of you, and you're only gonna be safe if you with me. You know what I'm saying? That type of thing.
Right.
I got white privilege, so I don't need it. But really, that's a way to capture. So when we talk about these experts in blues aficionados, they really are record collectors. Because like Sarah said, their parents own the master. You know what I'm saying? Your uncle was running so when we talk, we have to separate the artistry from the record industry. The record industry is a white supremacist delusion construct. That's something that has been an oppressor of the art. You know what I mean? It's a colonizer of Black people's art. And so when you look at the artistry by itself, most of the best blues songs don't be in the Smithsonian. As a part of the folktales research that people was going through the South with recorders.
Right on. Now hold this way. Now you're talking that stuff you're not supposed to be talking when you're talking about music. It's supposed to be all about the music and having fun.
You said the soul. You said
let me say this,
right? You said the soul of it, though, right?
No. You better preach, girl. You better preach. This is the time for us to recognize what took place.
Yeah.
And what is taking place.
Yes.
The colonization, the ownership, the plundering of our gifts, which are the sacred and the divine. Brother Darius said at the top of the show, this is the expression of divine.
Yeah.
And then my sister, she just said that, look, this is the record industry is what? Say it again, sis. I want to hear the word because I'm writing this down. I'm about to say this tomorrow at the barbershop, and I'm going to be the wisest cat in the room.
You know what I mean? The record companies are colonizers. But
oh, my goodness. The audio broke up. Say it one more time. Oh, I can't hear. Oh, I can't hear. Oh, my. I'm going to write it down, though.
That brought me to something. Straight up, sis. But do you, and we are really talking about doo-wop, but all of it's related. All of it's the same. Do you think now with the brand of music that's being pushed is to keep you from having this discussion about your art form, about what comes out of your soul, pushing all of the stuff that you know that will kill you immediately?
Oh, yeah.
Then something that will wake you up, because when I do think of doo-wop, when I do think of like certain artists, I think of the lyrics. I'm a lyrics person. I can't dance to art. I can't dance if it's not feeding me. This is my truth. Some people can. I love I Want to Love You, but when they put on their original song, I Want to F You, I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to dance because I won't do that with you. I just want to dance. So I'm saying when they dummy that down, know what I mean? It's really the same thing, because sometimes we like to believe that we have made these great strides because now you can do all the crazy stuff that their kids do, but their kids can like go do some time in the halfway house or go to counseling, but you be in jail on your stuff like Act at the Barnes brother. You know, and we can talk about a lot of people who went to prison on some stuff, but had they had been a different color, they would have got counseling and then, you know, been doing a rehab album or something. I don't know. But how much of this has to do with right now?
What's in the news today? What just happened today is and you don't have to be a fan of it, but it's exactly what you're talking about. Lil Wayne sold his entire catalog to Universal for over $100 million.
Bob
now,
Dylan?
No, Lil Wayne
he sold his catalog to Universal for $100 million. Now that's a lot of money, but he gave his entire life's work away for a dollar figure, something that's going to live, that's going to stand the test of time, right?
Yeah.
And he did it because he got a gun case, and he's getting ready to have to go to court, and he's going to have to pay all this money because he's facing 10 years. So he's trying to put all of his resources together so that he can deal with this. But it's the exact same thing. We don't have that privilege. We don't have that backing that can take care of this. You just go through this and we'll take care of it. You don't have to sell your catalog. We have that individual way of thinking that you talked about before, Brother Jamil, where we feel like we're on our own and we're creating a music that unifies the world, that unifies people and brings communities together. But when the rubber hits the road, we feel like we're alone, and we make decisions like that and sell off our legacy. So sometimes that's just as bad as selling out as anything else, you know. But I understand what the brother's going through. It's just you're not supposed to sell your legacy.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
That's deep. That's real deep.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about doo-wop, but doo-wop is like all the other forms. It really comes out of who we are, how we express ourselves, but it's so much deeper than that.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. Like, that's, I always say, like, all the music that was created here in the Americas under all of the tyranny and stress that we've been under has really held America up, honestly.
Yeah.
It has helped poor white people who left England, Europe, or wherever they was from, and they came over here and made a killing. Even if you came from the Middle East, there were people who from the Middle East made a lot of money off of Black folks and blues and stuff.
Yeah, like Ahmed Erdogan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like Casey Kasem.
Yes.
And like others who came from the Middle Eastern background, recognize that America is a rich and ripe cultural petri dish, and decided to get paid. Now, I'm not angry with anybody who wants to get paid, because I came through the classroom of Eric B. and Rakim like anybody else. We understand that paid in full is not a bad thing to get. However, when you become a wise manager and exploiter of the cultural gifts and talents of another people whom you and your people hold in thrall and underfoot, then it becomes something different. Jerry Wexler may have been a nice guy, but Jerry Wexler comes from a Jewish community in New York who understood their relationship to Blacks. And when they built Atlantic Records with Jerry Wexler and Ahmed Erdogan and his brother Neshawi Erdogan, and they built the Atlantic Records label, they built that label on the backs of Ray Charles, come on now, Ruth Brown. They built that label on the back of Aretha Franklin in the 60s. And then they jumped on up into the 70s and 80s with the Spinners and Billy Cobham and everybody else. They understood that they had Black music in their control, and they profited from it. But when you look at Ray Charles, his life didn't go so easy.
Nope.
Poor Aretha Franklin, her life didn't go so easy. Yeah. Look at Nat King Cole. Nat King Cole built Capitol Records. Built it. I know they say Sinatra has something to do with it, but when you go out there on Hollywood Boulevard and look at that round office building, that's called the house that Nat King Cole built. Right. Nat King Cole was selling millions of records because the profit in motive and incentive in America has always been strong enough to motivate those colonizer thinking people to take what you give. Sister, it moved me to hear you say that your dad said he wished that you had done something else.
Yeah.
You have that talent, you bring that soul out of you, but he wished that you would not expose yourself to the world as so vulnerable.
Yeah.
That you are in touch with your ancestors.
Yeah.
You're in touch with the divine world, what they call the demi-monde. You're in touch with all of the great spiritual realities that produce this thing called soul.
Yeah.
And in the doo-wop era, they were beginning to show, after Jerry Wexler named race music R&B in 1949, Darius, right?
Mhm.
But they were beginning to show that it was true what Dyke and the Blazers would later say on Wax in their single, "We Got More Soul." We got more soul. What Arthur Conley would sing about in his song, "Do you like good music? That sweet soul music."
Yeah.
See, and he started naming all the stars that we had performing the music. And it's true. It's true. We have a unique and matchless history. And it did come through New York and Philly and Detroit and Chicago and the Bay Area and Los Angeles and other areas around the country. I got to make sure my own hometown gets some love. Cincinnati with Otis Williams and the Charms.
Ohio.
Cincinnati.
That's right.
Ohio was
Got to
Ohio
give love to them.
music out.
But it was a real thing. And so for people like me who were radio geeks, I was a radio geek. That's why I know call letters, Darius, and I'm pitiful when it comes to that.
Yeah.
I really am. But to
You're
be
the first person in decades that knew that could just call off WCLK like that, man.
But in all reality, these are the connecting dots of the nexus of the Black musical experience and how it's delivered to people.
Yeah.
The musicians, the record companies, the radio stations, right?
Yeah.
There's the triangle. And Ro, you pointed it out so beautifully that there was exploitation at every turn for us. You can't tell me that Alan Freed loved us. You can't tell me that the Wolfman Jack was a fan and a proponent of Black music. Cousin Brucey. These are not friends of Black people. They were not. The Hoss Man, Hoss Allen down south. These in Nashville, these were not people who loved us and wanted to be, but they knew there was profit and they would get that profit. So they patronized us.
Yeah.
And we kept coming and we kept performing. And so, yes, you're right. There was the Soul Stirrers at the beginning, but now there is Boys to Men. And somebody else is singing. There was a beautiful, beautiful group called Solo. They didn't know what to do with Solo in the 90s. Solo came up and sang a version of "A Change Is Gonna Come" and knock your socks off.
Yeah.
And people didn't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
They what? We couldn't market them because the thing that was selling what we're making money off of right now is gangster rap.
Right.
And if you're gonna pull guns and pull straps and pour champagne on naked girls, okay, we can sell your records. But if you're not going to be calling people out their name and asking folk what's your favorite word, we can't really use you.
Right.
So I guess this question just came up when you said that, Jamil, and I would like y'all all to think about it. Is there any responsibility to be had by the artist? Or the
Yes.
And I'm only saying that, please, I'm only saying that, like, I love Marvin Gaye. So that What's Going On album, I still play that to this day. There are certain albums that I want to feel inspired. I play certain Harold Melvin, the Blue Notes, certain songs. There are certain songs, the Isley Brothers. We got we got work to do. There's certain songs that lift me. That if they had not written that, I mean, that helps to fuel whatever I'm going to do. Do you think the same thing? Can you say for artistry right now? Is there any responsibility had to the artist or not?
What do you say, sister? What you say?
I say absolutely yes, because and I will say especially right now, like I think one of the things that Tyler Perry did was he went through the Chitlin circuit to make his money. That's basically what he did.
Yeah.
He took a bunch of church singers. They were not actors. But he put a play together and he used their voices. And he took them through the Chitlin circuit. That's how he really made his money. And then he made the leap. But at every juncture, he insisted upon ownership. Now, I think also he's influenced by past failures of all the people who have come before him. You know what I'm saying? To see where the pitfalls are. But there's a it's hard to assess the toll that putting yourself on the blade will take. You understand what I mean? So when I talk to artists when I was younger, and every time I'll meet somebody, I'll say, you know, what do you have to say about working in the music industry, or what do you have any advice, and blah blah blah. And several times I heard sell out quick. Just rip the Band-Aid off, and after a while you won't even feel the pain. And I really didn't understand that until I saw their careers move forward, until I could really get a sense of what that meant. You know what I'm saying? And so I think in any instance in life, whether it has to do with your artistry or just yourself as a person or whatever, when you make choices, and sometimes you can't. The way that celebrity works is you don't know what it's costing the person that you're looking at. That's the way celebrity works.
Sell out quick, rip it off like a Band-Aid, huh?
Yeah, so that you can get to where you're trying to get. And then because we have this idea in our head that we're going to get to a certain place, and then we'll be able to free ourselves, and then we'll also be able to help other people. And I think that without really understanding history and the context of what has occurred and what you've been looking at, it's very easy to misjudge and misstep, you know. But I think that it is, you do have a feeling though, you know. We're not taught to trust ourselves, but some people do. You know what I'm saying? Some people do, and they maintain their ownership. I think Ray Charles had great insight to the level of genius when it came to business. You know what I'm saying? To say, you're not going to own me. And I think, but you still have, you don't know what it is to be somewhere until you get there. And I think with the amount of charge and electricity that music carries, just like we talk about how it moves you, being the vehicle for that, it's a different kind of experience of life. It's not, you know what I mean? It's a different kind of experience of life. I will say that you use your entire body. Like there have been times when I was singing, when I swore, like I wasn't there anymore. That was just all in. And it doesn't happen usually in a studio. It happens in a live performance. So we're talking about a history of performers that really made their meat and potatoes from traveling through crowds of Black people. And then you've been in rooms of Black people, you know what the energy is like.
Yes.
And to have that take place afterwards, you're going to need something. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, it absolutely is the artist's responsibility to get a handle on yourself too.
So if music is connected to your soul, then what does soul really mean to people, especially to the artist? Because that's what's ringing in my head. If there's something that's so personal and so deep and we know music is attached to the person's soul. We talk a lot about soul music. Black folks get soul music. We don't get pop. We get soul because there's something very deep about soul, something very spiritual about soul. What is that for real? And why is there a balance in it? Is there reciprocity in that? Is it?
Well, the reciprocity may be on its way on a grand scale. It hasn't gotten here yet, but I want to just go back and just camelback or horsey back because you know I ain't gonna piggyback.
Oh, that's right. So I'm like,
But my sister said that the actual act, the actual process of delivering whatever soul is coming through you, because I didn't hear her say that it came from her. She said it came through her. That's very, very powerful. It comes through her to the receptive ear of the Black audience who's gathered in a place, and the energy is there. Is that what you said, sis?
Yes, sir.
Now in that, look how beautiful that is. There's something there that other people cannot replicate or duplicate. It's not to say that we're better than anybody. It's just that that's who we are. There's a book by Dr. Alfred Pasteur and Dr. Ivory Toldson, published in 1982. The book is called The Roots of Soul. I recommend that everyone pick up a copy of The Roots of Soul and add it to your library, because the scientific postulate of these two doctors is that the soul that we call soul is a physiological phenomenon that reflects the presence of melanin in the neurological system of the original people, that transmits impulses over our ganglia and nerve systems at a faster and more accurate rate than any other people on the planet. That this melanation.
Uh-oh.
What happened?
You got a call.
No, it was okay.
Here we
Somebody called and tell me, because you know how people do. They be like, "Man, you on the show teaching," but you can't call me and tell me that. Cut that out, Junebug. Cut it out. But look, when you're actually on this subject matter and you see that this is true, it's not. That's why we are compelled by this quality called soul, that the frequencies of drums and the bass level of notes, they vibrate with us, and we are unable to resist responding to them. You ever be at the stoplight in Sacramento or in the Bay Area or I don't know what city you might be. I don't know where you are today. You might be in Rome. I don't know. But you ever be at the stoplight in your city and you thinking about your bills, you thinking about some cares of the day, you thinking about why your daughter got her hair done like that. You thinking about all these other issues, right? And then all of a sudden in the background, Skin Tight come on the radio.
Yeah.
And you don't know, but before you know it, your head is doing this. Involuntarily. Boom, 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 boom. You don't know why you're doing it, but that is an involuntary response, as natural to the Black man and woman as your heartbeat or your respiration. It is the actual root of soul. I was with Minister Farrakhan once, and he told me, and we were laughing because he said, "Brother, the beauty of the call to prayer in Mecca, Arabia, is wonderful. You can hear the brothers get them weds and go up into the minaret and they call the prayer, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar." It's beautiful, right? He said, but when you go to the masjid in the ghetto in Philly or Detroit, and that muezzin calls that call to prayer, it sounds different. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Because there's something that happens in the presence of God and each other that is a sacred transmission of an eternal message. That is coming through us, but it originated before time began. And it will linger long after the calendars have all burned to dust. It is the message of the original people and the God of heaven and of the earth coming through us. And so what you're looking at, man, this is power. And that's why I love to hear these scholars talk. Because, Brother Darius, see, when you talk, Sister Ife Modupe, when you talk, you're bringing out of my mind and heart the experiences that an old school Black dude can put in context now and see that, oh, this is good. This is good. Our people have guardians. Mama Ro is a guardian of the Black woman, a guardian of the Black family, and even sometimes against her will, because we make her mad sometimes, a guardian of the Black man. She loves us. See? And we are all each other God. We're all each other God. So why don't we hold on to each other and be what we're supposed to be? Oh, you gave me chills talking about singing, and there's something happening through you that you don't even know. You're not even a part of your own body no more. You're in an experience that your body is now being used to amplify. And send into the spiritual space of the communion of the people of God. For the message of God in the time of God. Y'all better stop me. Cut my mic off. Lord,
as we wrap up, y'all, this is really incredible. 2 things before we wrap up. Next week, we're going to look at reggae and lovers rock and anything that's reggae. And I'm only saying lovers rock because I've been listening to it. I didn't know that's what it was called. I just like, they be making one of our songs. I had no idea that was called lovers rock until I said it. Okay, we'll talk about. I would love for y'all, if you have not, to come back next week and talk about reggae. I'm dead serious in lover rock and those songs. I'm just into this thing where I think we gotta have this conversation. Second thing is, as we leave out, each of us has to give a little verse of something of our favorite doo-wop. It could be a background of a song. It could be what's that one group? I wonder if they're doo-wop. God help me out with this one song. Is it the Shy Lights?
Shy Lights is post. That's post doo-wop. Post doo-wop.
Post doo-wop.
Okay. So the
it's
Shy
not technically doo-wop, but if you dig it, that's what it is. If you dig it, you dig it.
No, I'm saying I like the Shy Lights. There's another group too I love too.
I can't reach back that far, but my favorite doo-wop influence song is
okay, I'll take Influence
by James Brown.
Hey.
Prisoner of Love.
Which one is that? Which one? You guys sing a little bit, Darius. Which one is that?
Try me.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You. Hey man, try me to sing.
Go on, sing it. Go on, sing
it. Talk to me.
Who else is that?
And then the famous flames in the background.
Darius, James Brown, Try Me. Who else we got?
What?
Yeah.
It could be a doo-wop influenced song as well. So
okay. The 5 Heartbeats was.
Take it. Well, yeah, you can do 5 Heartbeat.
And you can try New Edition too. We didn't even say New Edition this whole time.
We still didn't even listen to New Edition. No,
oh, we didn't even talk about New Edition or Take 6, right?
I forgot about Take 6.
Let me think. How does the song go? Shit. Stay, darling. Stay in my corner.
The Dells.
Ooh, that's that grown
you. Oh, so proud.
That ain't
Please stay, darling.
Okay,
Honey, you love me.
Stay.
Oh, darling, stay.
Stay. I love that stuff.
Please,
Sunday night too. Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm gonna play that when we get off of here.
You know, Sunday night, I don't know about y'all. Really Sunday night when you get ready for the school week. That's all it is.
That's it.
Yeah. Getting hair pressed.
Yeah.
I just want to say one thing to you, Ron. Just a kiss from you will make this thing true. Oh, come on, y'all.
Every time I hear that, I think of Barton.
Man. That was 6 minutes and 12 seconds of solid soul slow jam Nirvana to put you in heaven, baby. We better break this up before it breaks us down.
That's what I'm saying.
That's radio right here, brother. That's radio right there.
I love it, Jamil. I love it. Oh my God. I love that. I absolutely love it. Jamil, You
That's
got
when soul music, huh?
You got a favorite? You better have a couple favorites.
That's when soul music was born. I'm telling you. And you hear Marvin Jr. was the lead singer, the baritone, and had the vocal fry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you would hear him, baby.
Yeah.
Ooh, 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 baby, I love you. And then background, stay. Whoa.
Yeah.
Right? And then you hold the note, stay. And he's hold the note, just stand there. Everybody be walking away, throw their microphone down. There's that stage craft, right? Showmanship.
Yes. Where panties were first thrown on the stage.
Oh, yes, indeed.
He hit them notes though.
Oh, man.
Just to make Catherine church the next day.
Man. I used to go to the show. This is before y'all was born. This is true. I used to go to the concert at the Carter Barron Amphitheater in Washington, D.C., and the groups would come in packages, and they would stay for a week from Tuesday night through Sunday night. The theater was dark on Monday, but they would be, and I would see the Dells, the Dramatics, and the Shy Lights on the same ticket, and the back of the house seats were $2.50. In the middle section, it was $4. And if you wanted to sit up front, you had to pay. It was $6.50. And you sit up there, and I'm telling you, I would go to the show 2 or 3 nights a week, and I would just be watching and learning and the stagecraft. The first concert I ever saw, Brother Darius, is true, was James Brown on Easter Sunday, 1965. My mama dressed me up in a nice little Easter suit, And I went down to the Cincinnati Convention Center because he played a matinee show for the kids, the children, They called us kids, but, we children. And Lord have mercy, that first time I saw Mr. Brown on the stage, and my brother Hassan Rashad is with us. He's watching on the YouTube. He'll tell you the same truth. I sat there and watched it. Mr. Brown had the whole auditorium in his hand. Yeah. And every time he said, hit me, the horns blasted. And he said, break it down. All you heard was Clyde Stubblefield on the block. Top, ba-doom, top, ba-doom, boom. And he controlled the whole building. Wow.
Wasn't the same when you left.
One of the examples of the power of that communal spiritual exchange that sister was talking about. See, because everybody knew the James Brown show. You knew what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. The band is going to come out first and play. And then they're going to bring out Clay Tyson, the comedian. And then they're going to bring out, the band's going to come back on and play another number. Then you're going to hear from Marva Whitney or either Lynn Collins, whichever the girl singer was. She sang her hot single that was on the charts at that point. Then they would introduce the Famous Flames. They'd come out and do their steps, and then Mr. Brown would come out. And Mr. Brown would do a couple of numbers in a suit. He had his jacket on. He would do a couple of numbers, and then he would do Kansas City. Going to Kansas City, here I come, right? Yeah. And he would dance on that number, right? And then he would dance and slide over the floor, and Danny Ray would come to the microphone as Mr. Brown exited the stage, and Danny Ray would say, ladies and gentlemen, James Brown will be back. And then the band would play another number. Mr. Brown would come back having relieved himself of the burden of the suit jacket. And now in something much more comfortable to dance and slide and do the splits, he would come out and do the rest of his show. You knew that at the end of the show, he was going to do Please, Please, Please. You knew what happened right through the cape over his shoulder. You knew what happened when they walked him off and, patted him on the back. Please, please. You knew what was going to happen. But every time you saw it, you hung on every movement because that was the hardest working man in show business, Mr. Dynamite, the exalted ruler of rhythm and blues, soul brother number 1, the godfather of soul, Mr. Dynamite, James Brown, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you were seeing. This was great, man. This was great stuff. Great stuff. This is our stuff. Ain't nobody can take that from us. No. Ro, you let us get together tonight and just get a little bit blacker. I'm blacker right now. I'm blacker than I was 2 hours ago. Right on.
That was another thing. Yeah. The music allowed you to be so proud in that blackness stuff.
Yeah.
There was all kind of, every time I watch the 70s, I'm a child of the 70s, so I'm a 70s for that. I love when I see black people be like, it's like a little tuck, but it'd be like, or when we see each other, there's something about seeing a pounder. Every time I watch stats, I love that. That to me was like a pre-crack film to me.
Yeah.
The people were healthy and happy, and people giving even when they was dancing, they was in rhythm with each other. Like everybody. I was like, that's what I remember.
Yeah.
That oneness of us being together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
That watch that something else. I went to LA looking for the girl in the red polka dot dress. I was looking for her.
If you haven't already, I encourage you guys before next week to watch 2 movies. There's a documentary. They're both on Amazon Prime. There's a documentary on the history of Lovers Rock.
I seen that.
And there's a movie called The Lovers Rock that's directed by a brother named Steve McQueen. You gotta check those. It'll give you the context.
Oh,
12
Years a Slave, by the way. He's the one who directed 12 Years a Slave, Steve McQueen, of British Nigerian heritage. What I loved about Lovers Rock, I watched them both, but the film, I had seen the film first before the documentary. My sister had seen the documentary. She was like, "You're describing the documentary," but to me, it was just like even the hardest dude in there wanted somebody to dance.
Right. We talked about that earlier this week, Ro, and we talked about the edge that was taken off of Lovers Rock because it was centered in London, in the UK. That was different from the political, hard driving reggae that was forming, the roots reggae that was forming in Jamaica. Which again was fueled by Jamaica's independence movement and some of the political challenges. And so, this is a great Black world. Open yourself up to it. Open yourself up to the music, because everybody who's doing music is really doing their version of Black music. I don't give a dang if it's Kate Smith. I don't care.
I mean, not YouTube. What's the one called UB40? I remember that corny ass. I knew that was all reggae.
UB40, MC Snow.
Even Sting borrowed reggae.
Oh yeah.
Come on, I know that music. I was like, no, that's reggae right there. Don't get it twisted, Sting. I love you. That is not police. That's reggae.
And these comments on the Facebook page, I got to tell you, Brother Hassan Rashad, he from Washington, D.C., he come in and said, Marvin Jr. was Teddy Pendergrass' daddy. Cut that out. Everybody, I tell you, I want to say some special shout outs. We want to thank Sister Siobhan. Dr. Siobhan Muhammad is with us from Tampa, Florida. Sister April down in Richmond, Virginia. Hey, my brother Adolph Roberts out of the village of Harlem, New York, today down in Middletown, Delaware. He's with us. Man, so many people from all around the country. Hey, y'all, when you see that big Rolanda smile, you know you done made it to the big league. Jammin' J. Lamont, the human iPod himself. He's with us. Jammin' J. Lamont, new single that he's releasing into the record industry. Give him a shout and check him out, Jammin' J. Lamont. Sister Aisha's with us from all the way in Phoenix, Arizona. She like that good cookout music. She said, give her some of that good cookout music to play. We got all these folks that, and I'm telling you, Brother Derek is with us, and so many people all around the country. Thank you all for tuning in tonight to this discussion about doo-wop, hosted by our sister from Earth Mama Healing Network, Sister Rolanda Allah Wilkins. That's my sister, you know.
You was missing in a lot of young people's lives. Everybody had an uncle like you. See, that's that part, Darius, to the question you asked earlier about how young people. Like you gotta have an uncle, a cousin, or somebody who you think is a little crazy. Like, man, my uncle crazy. I like it when you do them announcements. Like I like when you play that old school stuff. You know what I mean? Because that's how you gotta get it. Like you can't really take a class. I mean, you could, but it's something about knowing the person.
No, ain't nothing like, hey, young blood, come here and sit down. Let me talk to you for a minute.
I'm thinking your family, Darius, you might be that uncle. You that uncle. Hey, young blood, come here, man. Sit down.
Right now I am. Right now I am.
That's how they get it, though. That's how the next generation get it. I remember when my nephew fell in love with Earth, Wind, and Fire. He acted like he was giving me something new. I was like, dude. What do you think you've been listening to all these Saturday mornings when we're cleaning the house? Right. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man.
Like you get it from being in the air. That's how I look. And I don't know no other way of describing it. It's just kind of like, do you ever do this with your young people? I'll play some of the music they know, and then I'll play the original.
The original.
No. I said, no. Let's go get this album cover because I have albums. I'll print off the album cover like, no, this says 1976. You know?
Right.
So this is, you know what I mean?
Right.
I'm just gonna tell you how I got shot one time. One time I was in Jacksonville, Florida, and you know, what is her name? Whitney Houston's the Bodyguard came on. And then they played the real Bodyguard, and I was like, who messing up Whitney Houston's song? That was really Dolly Parton's song.
Dolly Parton's song.
Like, I didn't know. I was like, yo, she's messing up Whitney Houston's song.
Mm-hmm. Ifa Modupe, quick question for you before we leave.
Yes, sir.
You all, in your gospel experience, do you all remember a singer by the name of Inez Andrews? Anybody remember her? Inez Andrews. This is another little small. I gave you the book assignment, but here's the music assignment.
What's those artists, Jamil? The artist's name of that book?
Yes, Toldson, Toldson. If somebody could please put that in the chat, I'd appreciate it. It's Dr. Ivory Toldson, Toldson, and Dr. Alfred Pasteur. Now, this is Dr. Ivory Toldson Sr. His son teaches at Howard University now. But this is the dad, Ivory Toldson Sr. and Alfred Pasteur, Pasteur. Okay, but those brothers wrote that book. And the best book review I ever heard given verbally about that book was from the great singer Betty Wright from out of Miami, the cleanup woman, who spoke about the book at a National Black Recording Artists Convention in 1982. And I'll never forget how great it was to meet her and the fly straw hat that she was wearing at the convention. But I wanted to ask you all about Inez Andrews. And y'all listeners, go check this out. It shows you how the black music blends together. The song, there's the book, Roots of Soul. Thank you, Ro. This tune by Inez Andrews is called Lord, Don't Move My Mountain. Lord, don't move my mountain. And I want to ask you, just go listen to it. You'll hear the blending of gospel and even blues coming together on one tune, a very powerful, big gospel hit in the early 70s. But Inez Andrews came up out of a tradition with the gospel caravans, Albertina Walker, Shirley Caesar, and her. And they were sweeping through the city, as the song said, going around the country, touring and bringing those sacred gatherings. Sister Ifa Modupe, you talked about it so beautiful. Those sacred gatherings of people expecting a communique from before and expecting to propel it by their own participation all the way forward. This is a powerful gathering right here. This is not just for us to laugh about the oldies. We're going to do that. But to accelerate and to accentuate the creative power of the original people of the planet Earth, regardless of our identification. Oh, there's Inez right there. Yeah. But regardless of the power of our identification, regardless of the power of our religious persuasion, whether we look up to Jehovah, whether we look up to Olodumare, whether we look up to Allah, whether we look up to whatever our deity is, we are the people who make the drink get stirred. We, the black people, make the drink get stirred. You better believe it. You better believe it.
Yeah.
Well, y'all, thank you so much for joining us. We will be back next week as we look at reggae and all of its branches. Y'all, this is so incredible. Darius, Ifa Modupe, Brother Jamil, thank you so much. Could not have had such great and informational conversation without all of you all tonight. So we will be back next week at the same time looking at reggae and all the different reggae forms of music or offshoots or whatever. So with that being said, family, I want you to know that we really do only have eyes for you when we are out of here.